So maybe you're desperately trying to optimize your life. And with every little piece that you get closer to perfection, you feel emptier or even lost in some kind of way. Maybe that's the point where you need philosophy. And I will tell you now that it's quite easy to step into this whole super nerdy philosophy game, just like stepping into a garden. Actually, philosophy is all about seeking knowledge, seeking truth. Eventually, we've never found it, as you may have noticed. But there's a philosopher, Wilhelm Dilthey, and he didn't actually seek for the absolute truth, but he tried to find ways and categorize these ways of searching for the truth. So, what he found out can be symbolized by a metaphor, by a garden. And so basically he tries to give an overview of all worldviews you can possibly have. Quite a bold claim, isn't it? So in his imagination there are a bunch of little small grass roots, some bushes, maybe a shrub here and there. These are all little thoughts, trends, little habits, just little thoughts that come and go. But there are 3 tall trees. These are worldviews that have been growing for thousands of years. These are symbolized by these trees here in 3 different colors. And all of them, every philosophy, every religion, every scientific paradigm, they are kind of like struggling for life. But it's not like this trivial Darwinism that we have a survival of the fittest and there's only the fittest who will survive. But it's more that each and every tree has its own time. And maybe not only in the human history, but also in the history of a single human being itself. So they don't kill each other, they coexist, they twist around each other, they cast shade sometimes on each other, and then suddenly maybe have a renaissance again. So it's not the truth we are seeking today, but a way to bring order into the chaos of philosophy, science, religion, and even art. And so let's dive into the first tree here. So this is the tree of naturalism. So every tree grows from a very basic experience that every human will encounter. And the first tree, the naturalism, grows from the experience that the world hits back. So you can speculate forever, but walk into a lamppost and you're back in this kind of reality. So the world hits back. This is the tree that is rooted in the body, the senses, the matter, the physical cause and effect. It's about that the outside world determines us. This is the main idea here. And of course, in this kind of worldview we're having here, there is the modern science located. For instance, I will just write it here. And it's quite fun to think about what kind of worldviews, what kind of authors, thinkers, schools are located in what kind of branch, in which tree. We have here the modern science, the medicine, modern medicine at least. You're taught in medicine school. Things like brain science. Brain science thinks there is only our brain with a lot of small little electrical signals that are giving us the illusion of freedom. Now, this is like a polemic, of course. It's always just a heuristic. It's a heuristic to get things ordered. Not perfectly, but these are categories that can give you the illusion of a first big overview. So here we have the whole optimization culture. What you will find here in YouTube, for instance, thousands of tricks and little hacks, how to be fitter, how to be healthier, what kind of diet, what kind of exercises you should make, and all should be based just on plain science, just on the empirical world. There are also social scientists like Auguste Comte, Francis Bacon. There is some sort of Marx, but only in this polemics. We have Jane Goodall, maybe. But maybe you've listened to the last words she gave to the world, where she pointed out that there is a higher being, and not only what you can experience as a scientist. We have Marie Curie. Maybe we've also have like a person like Bourdieu. All right, and we've got like things out of the culture sphere, like realism in art. If you're that kind of person that is trying to describe the world in just the most empirical sense. Photography is most likely the art you can relate to the best. So photography, that's it. This whole tree thinks that the world is intelligible because it follows laws. And we are part of it, okay, and shaped by biology, physics, evolution. And we can find ways to describe these laws. We can find them out. What is the problem? Why isn't this tree just only growing? There are limits also to this tree, and it is based on a paradox in itself, because it believes that only the empirical world counts. Yet that very paradigm is not something you can measure, that the world is nothing more than what we can measure with the methods of science is in itself not an empirical sentence. Still, naturalism, of course, works in a broader sense. It just works. Yeah? So we see that we've got an industry, we can optimize ourselves. And this is one reason why Western capitalism rules the whole world. And whenever science delivers new tools, whenever brain scanners reveal new patterns, whenever technology shapes our behavior, we feel the plausibility of this tree. The second tree is the subjectivism. Dilthey speaks about the idealism of freedom in this part. But for an English-speaking audience, I'd say that subjectivism is the better translation. And this tree derives from the feeling of freedom, as simple as that. It is the sense that we can choose, that we can interpret, that we can shape, that we can construct the world, that we are basically the center of the world. This is the only tree that doesn't need an external truth. Its roots lie in the idea that the world as we know it is always at least filtered, if not completely constructed, through the subject. So that eventually the driving force of what we experience as reality lies in ourselves. So we got here, of course, people like Kant, maybe Fichte, people like Piaget. So the whole constructivism. Niklas Luhmann, if some of you know him, is a renowned sociologist from Germany with an incredible theory of society. He also has a theory of communication, and in this theory of communication, it is that the communication system is its own system that is completely built on its own logic, and this is just that it seeks connections, but not to the empirical world, but to what has been spoken beforehand. So no kind of communication can be true in the sense that the words are any kind of portrayal of the material world, but these are just outcomes of the logic of the communication system. Romantics got the red color, like Schiller, who would say, even if I'm in prison, if I have the right thinking, I'm the freest man on earth. Come on, Schiller needs to be in this tree. We have people like Sartre. We are condemned to choose because we are condemned to freedom. In the art forms, we have expressionists. Also, I mean, you can also try to divide them, but in this category would also have impressionism and surrealism, because all that lies in roots quite similar to this form of subjectivism. So the author is the most important thing, not the outside world. We have people like Max Weber with this decisionism. So we can't conclude political decisions out of just pure science. This is basically the takeaway from Max Weber. Okay, but this tree is also constructed around one sentence base. And this is everything is constructed. And this sentence seems to eat its own roots, because still this sentence, everything is constructed, shouldn't be any construction, hopefully. But then you see the paradox in itself again. Also, this sentence is constructed and not the truth in itself. This is constructed. All right. So the last third tree. Oh gosh, that's a long story, isn't it? Still. Okay, ongoing. Cut. All right, the third tree. You come to an end. This will be, in the words of Dilthey, the objective idealism. We just say objectivism. I think that's all right. And this tree is rooted in the sense that there is something higher, something structured, something beyond us that we cannot manipulate. So it's not material, it's something else. It doesn't have the right form. It's hard to describe, hard to find words for. I would just say there is something higher. I think this is the best expression we can find. All right, and of course in this tree is the almighty religion. Yes, religions of all kinds. Yeah. But mostly the religions that has a one God that is structuring the world. Maybe it's this being, this God structured the world once. The whole question about deism comes up. But it's only important, okay, we have this tree of religion, of course, but there is not only religion in it, all kind of spiritual traditions. Got also Plato here with the world of ideas, maybe Spinoza. So people who had like any form of spiritual musicality in poetry, let's say Hölderlin. You need to read him in German, I think. Hölderlin. And of course, you also see it in architecture and music that is aiming at transcendence. Yeah? So churches, for example, are trying to express that feeling and evoke it at the same time. But also sociology could be located here, at least a form of it. Like Durkheim. Yeah? Durkheim, who thought there is society and we should treat society like a thing in itself. Durkheim, society. So not only God, but also the society could play this role of something higher that you can't manipulate. But this is also the reason why Durkheim got all the critics, for example, by Latour. People like Sigmund Freud are also hard to locate, maybe. But Sigmund Freud also thought about the impossibility to ever get your subconsciousness out of the way. It's not that the I should be there where the it is. This was a misconception, actually by his own. So I would at least argue that a big part of Freud's theory should be located here. But we could discuss this, yeah? Of course, he tried to do this in a very scientific way, sense of modern medicine with experiments that didn't quite work as they seemed to be. Different story. I'd like to have a lot more women on all these trees. Simone Weil, for example. I mean, I would also say that people like Frida Kahlo, out of the, is more from the spiritual kind of sphere, isn't it? We would need to discuss it, maybe. All right. So these are just some examples. And of course, the idea here is that reality is structured by a higher principle. At least since the Enlightenment, we have a lot of criticism. So this is a tree that is really attacked by all the others. And there are things like these basic questions. If there is a highest principle, why does every culture imagine it differently? If it is divine and almighty, how can it limit it? And why do so many people simply not have this spiritual musicality? So these are questions that can be raised here. Let's have just this one. Highest principle, but so differently imagined. All right. So for me, the main takeaway is it is so easy to just live on one of these trees and laugh about the other ones, thinking that there is just one tree that is the right one to be on, to be an enlightened person or to grasp the world in the right kind of way. No, I don't think so. I guess all trees, all these three trees will have its function in society, but also in the life of every individual. Maybe there will come just this one day where you feel that maybe you've lived your whole life on the tree of naturalism, and then it becomes lonely, it becomes cold, it becomes not vivid enough, just not feeling alive anymore. And then maybe you need kind of an impulse from the other trees. And it's completely fine, it's good. Just be brave and try something else sometime. And what's also important is that maybe this is just an impulse for discussion. This is not the truth again. Yeah? Of course, we could also think about Dilthey with this whole concept, where it is located itself. let's think about this. I guess he would be here more. Come on, I'll give you a diltai, little red tree. This is the way you would write it, by the way. So question is still, is it then a fruitful way to think at all if it is not that precise? No, it's not precise. It's very abstract, but it's a beginning of thinking. And all these authors are so much more complex than just to point out, okay, you are completely on this tree. But what's an author? Foucault talked about it. An author is so much more than this human being with this one brain, but it is all these associations we have, what we are constructing there as the author. It's not that one of these trees is stupid, but maybe it's a much more fulfilling life if you try also the other one. Not blue, not only red, not only green, maybe just take all 3 pills. So, see you next time.